people that are creative, I think, are ultimately going to be the ones that are successful moving forward. Like I went from making 40K to now I make over 135. I have more than tripled my salary. I'm able to pay off debt. I'm able to save for a house one day. I'm able to travel versus, when I was making 40K, I barely was making it and surviving. Love yourself enough to invest in yourself, period.
Welcome to the Many Roads podcast. I'm your host, Oba Okusanya. And today I have with me a very special guest. This is someone that I have seen and watched on the streets of LinkedIn, is how I would put it. She is a coach. She's a senior project manager. She embodies personal branding from how I've just watched her move on LinkedIn, and I thought it would be a really good idea to have her come on the pod because I know she offers so much value. So, welcome, Yonelly. Welcome to the Many Roads podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for asking me to come on, and I'm happy to share some truth and knowledge today.
Yeah, that's exciting. So, I mean, let's get into it, right? The typical way I start off these podcasts, especially when I have a guest, is I kind of want to know like your backstory and I call it the origin story. So, what's Yonelly's origin story?
Absolutely. Okay, so mine is all over the place, so be prepared. I went to college a long time ago, graduated in 2013 with a degree in sociology. So I went back and forth on, okay, am I going to law school? Am I going to vet school? I couldn't figure it out. So since I couldn't figure it out, I started working very low wage jobs. So for some time, I worked as a vet tech. I also worked as a server. I was just trying to figure things out. And so, obviously, as someone with a bachelor's degree working minimum wage jobs, my parents were not so happy. And they're like, okay, you need to figure it out. And of course, I was unhappy as well. Um, so I did go back to do a I can't say it, post baccalaureate in veterinary medicine. But then
Wow.
unfortunately, I am terrible at organic chemistry. So it ruined my chances at vet school. And I was like, okay, back to square one. What the heck am I going to do with my life? So I reflected on just my college experience and I really transformed myself in university. Like I grew up in Katy, Texas. It's a suburb of Houston, and back then it was not very diverse, and so you grew up in a bubble. I grew up in a bubble, and so I went to University of Texas at Austin. I met so many different people. I made so many different friends, and like I said, I just became this different person. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to go back and get a master's. I mean, let's go do some more school.
Yeah.
And so I went to the University of Houston, and I got a master's in higher education administration so that I could work at the university. So I worked at the University of Houston after I graduated with my master's for about 4 years total. And it was really there that I grew my project management skills. So I was actually titled a program manager, but we didn't use like traditional project management methodology. It's just what University of Houston calls that position.
Yeah.
And in that position, I essentially was the manager of the department. So I ordered supplies, I worked with the faculty, I did event planning, I helped with orientation, I did the course scheduling. So again, a lot of project management skills. Well, this was back in 2019 time. 2020 rolled around, and I'm sure many of you who were also on TikTok at that time, you might have come across work in tech, be a project manager in tech. And I'm like, well, what's the difference between a project manager and a program manager? And so I
Yeah.
did some Googling, and I saw that like it there's a lot of crossover, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Put it in the back of my head. Well, 2021 rolls around and I was like, I'm getting paid 40K with someone who has a master's degree. This is crazy. I need to get out of higher ed. So I just went guns blazing and I hired two career coaches because I was like, I don't have time to waste. I literally, as I've just been explaining, my 20s was all like discovery and figuring out and going back to school and getting in debt for taking out student loans. And I'm like, I have no time to waste. I'm going to hire career coaches and I'm getting the heck out and I'm going to tech because
Wow.
tech pays well. Well, after investing in myself with career coaches, I was able to land an IT project manager position after only 3 months.
That's
So
incredible.
thank you. Yeah. And I took a huge risk on myself as someone who made 40K. I literally could not afford career coaching, but I was like, you know, I have to invest in myself. I have to learn from somebody that knows what they're doing and get to where I'm going because you know, getting paid 40K with a master's degree is just not working for me anymore. So anyways, yeah, I worked at a IT consulting firm for about a year. Then I was recruited to work as a contractor at RTX, Raytheon Technologies. I was there for 2 years, and then I started working at Palo Alto Networks, a cybersecurity company, as a contractor. So I know that that was a mouthful, but I really wanted to include all of that because I really wish that I had met or seen somebody like myself when I was younger, right? Because especially growing up in, a bubble, everybody goes to college, they know what they're going to college for, they start their corporate job in the 20s, and then now they're buying houses, they're getting married, they're having kids, and so I had all this self-imposed pressure on myself. And, I felt terrible because I I did all the right things, but since I didn't take the time to figure out what I really wanted to do, there was a
Mm.
lot of trial and error. So anyways, that's why I include all of that, just to show people like you can go through all these little spots, but then finally end up where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, no, that's incredible, Yonelly, and I like the part of you trying to, I guess, realizing that okay, this is not for me, and I want more out of life, and then doing something, to get out of that. Because I think a lot of people can probably relate to that, where it's like you've probably been at a, they've probably been at a stage in life where it feels like, okay, you know what, I think there's much more to life. I think there's much more that I can do. And you just went straight for like I will find help and I will skip past all the trial and error, right? And but a lot of people don't do that. They first try to figure things out themselves.
Hmm.
Can can you speak to, and I know like you're a coach, but that's not why I'm saying this. I'm
Yeah.
saying this because I've actually seen this help me as well. So can you speak to the importance of like paying for a service, paying for a mentor, paying for a coach to help you like bridge that gap?
So I'm totally with you. And I'm now obviously in the camp. And of course, I'm a coach. So some people might hear this and be like, oh, you're a coach. That's why you're saying you should invest in a coach. No, I've literally invested in a business coach, which is, by the way, transformed my business. I invested in a confidence coach, and I've invested in fitness coaches before. So this is, career coaching wasn't the first time that I've invested in myself. I've always just done that. I don't know. You spend money going to college and getting a degree because you know it's going to give you an ROI, right? Like you're supposed to go get a good degree, get a good job. So why wouldn't you look at career coaching the same? And like I mentioned, I spent my entire 20s going to university, going back for a post bac, going for a master's. Like I just felt like I had wasted so much time, even though now I know it wasn't really wasting time because it ultimately made me who I am today and gave me the skills
Exactly.
that I have today. But I don't know. I just got to the point where I was like, I don't have time to waste. I'm going to somebody that knows what they're talking about. I'm going to someone that has testimonials, good
Uh,
reviews, can actually back up what they're saying. And so I went all in, and you know, I literally went from making 40,000 a year to that first job at the IT consulting firm. I
yeah.
doubled my pay. So I was
Whoa.
getting paid 87.
Wow.
And then after that, after a year working there, I got recruited for the contract position at RTX, and I jumped to 125. And in that time, it was 11 months. So from 40K to 125 in 11 months.
Wow. That's incredible.
And I paid a little bit over 5,000 for career coaching. And so I mean, the ROI on that is incredible,
Yeah.
from investing 5,000 and then literally tripling my salary to go to 125. So for
Yeah.
me, it's just common sense. I cannot recommend it enough.
Mhm. Yeah, and I was just gonna follow up by asking this, Yonali. I find that people think it's easier, or people process it easier to, let's say, buy an expensive phone or buy something expensive, whatever it is. But when it comes to investing in ourselves, and this doesn't just have to do with just like career coaching. This has to do with like taking courses just to
Hmm.
improve in a certain aspect of life or whatever it is. w- from your experience, what have you seen is that hindrance that holds people back from, like, okay, saying, you know what, the one thing I should probably be investing in is myself? What do you think that hindrance is?
I think it has a little bit to do with like short term or like immediate satisfaction and then like long term satisfaction. So when you buy the phone, you get that dopamine hit of like, I got the new iPhone or I got the new, gaming system or I got the new car and you get that rush of dopamine versus when you invest in yourself, right? Like it's not like you just hand over your money and then the next day you get the job. Like, no, there's work involved. Like you actually have to execute on the things that you're being taught about and then you add other elements like today's job market, which is almost impossible. Like, people are hesitant to, okay, yeah, I see you have testimonials and reviews, but like, I also don't want to spend an hour a day on my job search or whatever. They want the quick hit. And so, yeah, I think that's what the difference is for some people. But again, to me, it's still worth it to invest in someone that knows what they're talking about, has the expertise, because ultimately you're going to cut the learning curve in half. So, yeah, it may not happen tomorrow, but it could happen in the next 6 months versus if you just did it by yourself, it's going to take you a year or longer if you even make it. So,
And in addition to that, like in addition to all the, I guess, all the skills that you get to improve on by way of coaching and, someone helping you, can you talk about the confidence you gain just from doing something with somebody who knows what they're talking about?
absolutely. That is such a critical piece too. So the reason why I got two career coaches is because one is she's very big in the career coaching world. She was a HR person. That's her expertise. So she helps people across all different disciplines, not just project managers. And then I hired a project management specific coach because when it came to conversations with like recruiters, while the general career coach could like provide me, like a range, like this is how much they should be paying you, the project management coach who had been a coach or who's worked in project management for 20 years could really like get very detailed on, no, this is the rate that you should accept. Anything lower, like they're lowballing you. And so that gives you confidence, right? Because if you didn't have that guidance and recruiters are coming to you, and this happens, right? Like
Yeah.
because of the way that they get paid, if they can lowball you and you agree to it, like they get a lot more money if that's how it's set up. Um, so having that person kind of like do a reality check with you and guide you just helps you be more confident in that way. But not only that, like in the interview, right? Like if you get a career coach, they teach you how to interview properly and secure the job. And so I don't know, I just feel like a career coach is just like this little person on your shoulder that's like always backing you up and cheering you on and like helping guide you, which ultimately creates more confidence.
Yeah. And honestly, I always think about the fact that, like, I've had the opportunity to pay for it. I would say it's an opportunity to pay for coaching in some regard. And honestly, the amount of growth I saw in a short period of time, it was like
Yeah.
mind blowing. But
Yeah.
the aspect that I think a lot of people forget about is the fact that there is a responsibility on your part to do the work.
Hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
a lot of people just think it's like magic, like, hey, I
Hmm.
pay you and
And
then you do
then
some you do
yeah, and
some
then it just
things.
happens. It's like,
Right.
yeah. I get on so many sales calls, for people interested in my program. And I more than once I've had somebody ask me like, "Oh, but you do the resume edits for me, right? Like you do the." I was like, "If I did it for you, I would be charging easily double what I'm charging right now."
Exactly.
So, I teach you the skills. You try it first because I want to teach you the skills. That's my coaching philosophy. Again, it's one thing for me to do it all for you and just hand it over, but I want you to learn these skills so that you know how to update your resume, update your LinkedIn for the rest of your life. And then I'll review it and then I'll give my feedback and we'll go from there. But yeah, it's just crazy how some people are like, oh, you do everything. I'm like, no, I would be charging so much more money if I did it for you. It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, a lot of people just want a done for you service, and it's like it's unrealistic, right? Because
Absolutely. And then they don't want to pay for how much a done for you service costs because it costs a lot. Like, you
yeah,
think
that's
my
right.
coaching costs a lot now? Like, done for you would easily be double.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, this is great, and this is just one aspect of who you are and all that you do. But I wanted to ask, because, for I guess I could say this now. I was posting content on LinkedIn for some time, and I had stopped. And surprisingly, you messaged me, right?
Yeah.
So when I saw that message, I was like, the way the world is set up nowadays, there's not a lot of people who are kind and who are thoughtful, let
Hmm.
alone who would go the extra mile of messaging a stranger saying, "Hey, I haven't seen you post in a while. Is everything okay?"
Yeah.
And that actually struck a chord with me because that is something I would do, but I just didn't think other people would do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a Hail Mary I'm throwing, right? Like I don't know if this quality that you have of being kind, has that always been something that was thought, that you learned? Like how did that come about? Is it just something that you do? Is it like how did that come about?
So honestly, the reason is because, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, there's a lot of the same old bullshit on LinkedIn. Like the people that are popular are all the same kind and the same kind of regurgitated bullshit. And so when I
Yeah.
see diversity out there and like different kinds of people talking about different things, like that is what excites me. And so when I see somebody that has a diverse perspective that kind of go fall off the map, I'm like, that's unfortunate. Like, are you
Yeah.
okay? What happened? Versus like, everybody else is just like marching in line and saying the same shit and they go
Yeah.
viral. And I'm like, no, what happened? So honestly, that's where that came from. I was like, where are you? Please come back. We need you. We need you out here. We need your diverse voice, please.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because it really made me feel like, okay, you know what? Even though I might not have 100,000 followers or whatever it is, it made me know that even in my own little corner of the internet, I am having some impact, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and I brought up LinkedIn because I wanted to ask you this question. Um, in the current landscape of like jobs and the economies are going crazy, and we're in the world of tariffs now, and like we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Hmm.
People are of course struggling to find their next role and the next career move, but it also seems like now is such a time where personal branding is like the biggest difference, and in introducing you, I did mention that you have a solid personal brand. It's almost like even with the collars, like it's
Thank
crazy.
you. I'm still
So
trying to figure out the colors, so I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
no, I think with the velvet thing you have is great. I think
Awesome.
yeah. But
Thank you.
anyways, anyone watching this out should go check your LinkedIn profile. They'll probably attest to this as well. But I was wondering if you could just speak about the importance of personal branding in today's like job landscape.
It is so incredibly important. So, obviously I'm a career coach, and so I help people get project management jobs. And so I do incorporate that piece of like, hey, personal branding, you don't need to be a content creator, but have some thought leadership pieces in your industry, right? Because you want to position yourself as an expert if a hiring manager or recruiter goes to your profile. It's just like an additional thing that you can do. But outside of this, and I actually want to start talking about this more on my platform, I just haven't figured out how to introduce this. But I think people honestly, like traditionally, we've gone to corporate, the 9 to 5, that's how we got paid. But like you said, the job market just being so unstable, I really think people like right now, we're in a like very critical time and we're at a critical time of opportunity. Like it may seem like there's a lot of people on LinkedIn like posting, but it's because we're posting, right? So that's what we see. But really, like the opportunity is there right now. So if you are able to come in, start talking about you, what skills you may have, and start developing your own side business, I honestly think that that's where just like careers are going now. I think we're the next 10, 20 years, people are going to be more freelance and like, this is my specialty. These are the skills. These are the things I can do for you rather than depending on a corporate 9 to 5. And that's part of the reason why, I work a 9 to 5, but I decided again, because the job market's so unstable, I don't ever want to get caught in a layoff and be like, I
Mhm.
can't pay my rent. I can't pay my
Yeah.
bills. I'm going to be homeless. That terrifies me. So that's part of the reason why I decided to build a side business outside of work and just build that additional security. But yeah, to your point, I think right now is a very critical time for people to start working on their personal brands. And it doesn't even need to be on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, create your own blog, whatever. But you really need to start building something outside of work today if you want to create, stability based on what's happening in the world today.
I had to interrupt the podcast to tell you about the free communication resource that I'm giving away. I used to struggle with speaking with authority, sharing my thoughts with clarity, and conveying my message and ensuring that the audience received it the right way until I walked through this 7 step framework that I put into a guide and that I hope helps you. So I'm giving that away. It's free. Check the link in the description, get it, and improve your communication. I'm rooting for you. Let's get back to the pod. It's actually crazy that you bring this up because like doing something outside of work, a lot of people are, I would say, shy and they're kind of like in, they're afraid of in terms of okay, how do I go about this? How do I put myself out there? And there's all these thoughts of maybe I don't even have enough value to offer people, so I probably shouldn't create posts, and I probably shouldn't like post on LinkedIn or post on Instagram.
Yeah.
How do you help people overcome that objection? Because it's something that they believe so strongly, and unless you overcome that, you're not able to get to that next step. So how do you help people with that?
So, two parts, right? The first part is that we think people think about us more than they actually do. So, like, we think that the coworkers are like stalking us and looking at what we're talking about, or somebody from high school. But the reality is, people have their own lives and care more about what's going on individually than stalking you, one person. Like, that's not really what's happening. But then I forgot what I was going to say for the second point. There goes my ADHD. But um, so as far as like confidence and like building something outside of work, like one, people really aren't paying attention, but two, like you likely have a skill. Like if you work a corporate job, especially, I promise you, you have a skill that you can monetize. Like whether that's like if you're an accountant, you could create a side business doing accounting for side businesses or whatever. Like, or if you really like going to festivals and whatever, you could start volunteering with festivals and then eventually create your own business that does whatever. The possibilities are endless. So I think one, get over the fact that you think everybody's thinking about you because they're not, and then two, like who cares, and start monetizing on the skills that you have.
That's great advice, and it's something that I had to also implement like a couple of years ago, I would say. But I'm still very much in this journey of like personal branding and being a content creator now, right?
Hmm.
Because I think people are afraid of being called a content creator, and it's not a bad thing. I
I
don't think,
know.
right?
It's just,
So
yeah.
yeah, I guess it's just some negative connotations around it that people now have bought into and believe. But then it's sad because the people that opportunities keep going to are people who have these brands and who have some sort of like visible.
Yes, that is such a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up because, and this is actually what I say as part of my sales pitch. Like I tell the women that I speak to, like I have gotten to the point where I do not need to apply to jobs. Jobs come to me. And
Wow.
so even so let's actually story time. So the reason why my contract ended at Raytheon Technologies was because they weren't happy that I was posting on LinkedIn. So this also brings up
Oh.
another point of like if you're scared that your company is going to care, yes, that's a valid concern because some companies do care. They think that they own your time even outside of work. But then there's companies like Palo Alto Networks and Google and Amazon who think it's really cool that people are building a personal brand outside of work and are very supportive. So, anyways, RTX was not supportive of me posting on LinkedIn. It was a whole thing, and my contract was immediately ended. So from August to December, I was on the job market and it only took a few posts of like, hey, this is me. This is what I'm doing. Here are my skills. These are the opportunities that I'm looking for. And then I had a recruiter knocking on my door for the contract position at Palo Alto Networks. And that December, I started working. So while everyone's been, not everyone, a lot of people have been on the job market for 6 months, 8 months, more than a year. It took me from August to December. And that's because I've built a personal brand on LinkedIn. And so I share that with women that I speak to. Like, we could get you to that point too. And either way, like, you should be investing the time talking about things and speaking on your expertise so that opportunities come knocking on your door and you're not having to do the whole rat race thing, applying to thousands of jobs, not hearing back, get ghosted. Like, I just feel like there's so many pros that come out of building a personal brand than not.
Yeah, and honestly, just the way you put it, it sounds like that's the strategy that's working now. Right. It sounds like the regular applying, and it seems like that's broken.
It's broken.
So it sounds like you have to find a way to differentiate yourself. I've even heard of people sending like video recordings of themselves to like recruiters, and almost trying to plead the case. But if you're able to sort of reorientate that entire thing, and now people are reaching out to you, I mean, in this market, that's a game changer, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so at this point I'm like I'm actually thinking of expanding on different platforms. Like I'll be transparent and vulnerable and honest. Like I've had TikTok on my radar for the last at least year and a half. Like I'm going to show up on TikTok, but I am scared to video record because that's a completely different game compared
Yeah.
to writing content on LinkedIn. I'm going to push myself. I'm going to hurry up and try to do it. Especially since they might end up banning the app. Who freaking knows?
Yeah.
But if I start there, like maybe then I could potentially go to Instagram Reels. So I share that because I don't want people to think like, oh, she, has a following, like she must be so confident, like putting herself out there. No, it's scary. It's just that, you know, I eventually will get to a point where I'm going to push myself and be like, you need to do it. Get over yourself. Just like I was saying earlier, we think people pay attention to us way more than people actually do. So, yeah.
No, that and thanks for being honest and transparent, right? Because it's something that we all struggle with, and even before starting this podcast, it took a whole lot of courage, a whole lot of like inner like gathering of, okay, like you can do this,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So that's like such a special quality though that like employers are looking for though because like you said the people that are being creative right now and creating video introductions and like sending them to recruiters or hiring managers. There's actually this career coach that I know, and in his program he would teach them how to create like these documents that, so for example, people who are interested in working at Google, one of his clients created like a very like Google resume. Like it looked like it was a Google search, but it was their experience in like for the text instead. And that's what got the recruiter's attention. So like, if you have these inklings, especially women and men that are trying to get into project management and are like, I just don't have the experience. No one will let me in. I don't have Go out there and create your own experience. Like maybe you don't need a site, like create an LLC right away, but like go find small companies on Instagram. Go ask your neighbors, go ask your family, like, hey, like, do you need help with project management? And then just go figure it out. Create the opportunity yourself. So, again, to your point, like, I don't know, the people that are creative, I think are ultimately going to be the ones that are successful moving forward. Like, unfortunately, just the world is changing and it's not the way that it used to be. And so you just really have to put yourself out there and try something different.
That's right. And you touched on something that's so important is the fact that you might have to initially create some opportunities for yourself and create some experience for yourself. Um, can you talk on that a little bit more? Because I think people struggle with that. They think until I'm given the opportunity, I can't get the experience. But here you are, you're saying you can actually find a way to create this experience for yourself.
Absolutely, because project management, at the end of the day, like the PMI defines a project as anything that has a start and an end and ends in a product, a service, or a result. That is a very broad definition. Like that is essentially planning a birthday party as a project, and it is. So knowing that, like take control of your future and create your own opportunities. So like I said, like there's so many freelance websites that you can go on, like Upwork and whatever, Fiverr, whatever else is out there, where you can create an account. I don't actually, that's not like, I'm not an expert in that, so I don't know what that looks like. But there's these opportunities, these platforms where you can sign up and get, connected with people that are looking for help. Like, and yeah, just implement what you're learning, especially if you get the PMP, like I don't know. I just like you. There's just the opportunities are endless. So yeah, just take control of your future and just put yourself out there.
I have a friend, and what you're saying is hidden on, is like spot on. Because I have a friend who, I think software engineers do this all the time. They have like a portfolio, or even people who are designers do this all the time, where it's like they have a portfolio of work they've just done. And it doesn't mean they were paid to do the work, but it just shows what they can do. So, in essence,
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying is just find a way to show everyone what you can do, and don't wait till someone's going to pay you for that.
Yeah, so I actually was just watching this TikTok of this creator. I think her name is Jane Walters or Jane Waters or Jade. I need to double check, and I'll follow up with you after. But anyways, it was so interesting because she was sharing that she actually went to school and studied like something with maternity and like delivering babies, and she was a doula. And then she was like, "No, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be in marketing." And rather than waiting for a corporation to be like, okay, come in, like you can start as a marketing assistant. She was like, screw that. Like, I'm going to create my own side thing. I don't know if it was an LLC, but she created her own business and was working with side businesses or small businesses to do their marketing. And she created her portfolio. And then she went to whatever corporation. She said, okay, here's my portfolio. And then she got hired. And then I forget which other industry she pivoted into, but she did the same thing. She was like, you guys are not going to let me in. I think it was TikTok. You guys aren't going to let me in as someone that like promotes creator stuff. Well, I'm going to do that. And so she created her own thing. And so, you just, again, I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but you have to get really creative, especially if it's something you're passionate about. It should be pretty easy, right? Like, if you really want to get in project management, like there's so many ways that you can. And like basically throwing your hands up and saying, oh, I don't have the experience is just like, it's just, why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah. This is really good advice, Yonelly, because it applies to like you can apply this advice to any like career pivot you're trying to do. Like if you're it doesn't have to just be tech. Like you can
Yep.
do this in any industry and that's awesome. And I was gonna ask a question because a lot of what we're saying right now and a lot of what we've been talking about applies to people who sort of have their next career move figured out. Now, could you take us back to before you figured out you wanted to get into project management and like that the mindset that it takes to realize, okay, these are the skills I have. How do you map that to a potential like next career move?
Yeah, so let me explain my experience first and then I'll explain how to actually do that. But like I mentioned, I came across TikToks of like people saying they were project managers. And at the time, I was a program manager and I didn't know that program manager in project management is actually like a higher level. But, anyways, so I literally went onto Google and I was like, what's the difference between a program manager and a project manager? And then it spit out an article, I read the different skills and I'm like, that's essentially what I'm doing right now. And I just like stored it in the back of my head. But to the second point that I was going to make is like, how do you actually do it? Like, you can do a skill gap analysis. So, literally, we have access to so much information, especially with AI. Like, you could literally even do this in ChatGPT or whatever your preferred Gen AI tool is. You can type in there, like, hey, I have these skills. What are the career paths that I should explore? It'll spit out some career paths. Okay. What skills do I need in order to like level up or whatever? Then it spits out these skills. And then you can literally take out a piece of paper and rate yourself. Okay, am I proficient in this? Do I need a little bit more training? Or, am I an expert? Just rate yourself. And then, okay, how do I level up on these skills? Because there's still room for me to grow. There's YouTube, Udemy, like there's just so many like tools at our fingertips. Like, so that's why it's like crazy to me when people are so like they have this defeatist attitude of like, I can't do it. And it's just like, no, you just need to like change your thinking. You can do it. It's going to take some creativity. It's going to take some effort, but you actually can. So, anyways, do a skill gap analysis, identify the skills that you really need, and identify, is there a small gap? Is there a medium gap? Is it a huge gap? And then come up with a plan how you're going to, level up in those skills and just make a plan of attack.
I love the part about using AI to even do this as well, because I mean it makes it a whole lot easier. You-
Yeah.
In the past, you would have probably had to do like some sort of manual, like,
Literally,
right?
literally have to go on Google, which wouldn't have been that hard, but like, go on Google. Okay, what are the skills a project manager needs? Okay, let me copy and paste this into a Word document. But like with AI, like again, you have like this online partner that you can kind of like go back and forth with and refine and yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just imagine how university would have been if we had AI
Oh
10,
my
15
god.
years ago. It would have been yeah. Like maybe I would have passed OChem. I would have been like, please help me because I don't understand this. So yeah, it's just yeah.
Yeah, funny enough, your struggle was with organic chemistry. Mine was with biology. Like I just couldn't, for the life of
Really?
me, I couldn't figure it out. Right? So that's why when you said you decided to go into veterinary medicine, I was like, wow. Because anyone who like goes into that, I'm like, you guys are geniuses.
Seriously, yeah. One of my good friends, she's a doctor and she's going into a specialty, and I'm like, she literally studied chemistry, and I'm like, you're so smart. Like, yeah. So definitely have appreciation for those people.
Yeah. I want you. Can you talk about how this idea of like failing forward, where it's like, because someone else might have run into that. Okay, I can't deal with organic chemistry, and might have just generalized that into I'm not good at school entirely.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that idea of failing forward, where it's like I might not be good at this, but there are things I'm good at, and I just need to find them.
Yeah, that's such a good question because, and this isn't probably going to be the best answer, but I knew that I was still good at school. I just wasn't good at organic chemistry. Like literally, my grades reflected otherwise. So for me, it didn't make sense to make that generalization. But I guess like applying it to project management. So like when I very like first started and pivoted into my first IT consulting role, I had to do kickoffs, right, with external customers. And the idea of presenting, technical topics to a customer, like scared the S out of me. Like I was so nerve-wracking, but again, I just had to like pull myself back and talk to myself and be like, no, you got this. Like, yeah, the first couple may not be that good, but you just keep following the script and you keep going and you'll get better from there. And so maybe that's like a personality trait too. If anybody finds themselves like, you know, I mean, again, and like anything, like you're not good at golf, you're not good at soccer, like, okay, you may not be good now, but like just keep trying and improving and eventually you get there. Like, yeah, this it's tricky because I also consider myself a perfectionist, but I've gotten a lot better at doing what I just explained. Like, yes, I know I really want to be good at golf and I suck at golf right now, but if I were to put my effort into practicing, I bet you I would eventually become good at golf. So maybe that's just a personality trait.
Yeah, and it also sounds like you've kind of figured out the learning how to learn. you know,
Yes, so I don't know why, but the phrase of like growth mindset just like came into my mind, like really having a growth mindset. And that's actually part of the coaching that I do, right? Like the women that come to me, they know they want to make a change. And as time goes on and they're dealing with the bullshit that is the job market today, and then potentially like sexism and racism and all these things, like they get to a point where they get very frustrated and it's granted, right? It is very frustrating to get rejected, to get ignored, to get ghosted, knowing that you can do something, but no one's giving you a chance.
that's right.
But and I, of course, encourage them. But at the end of the day, like they have to believe in themselves to keep pushing forward and just kind of remind themselves, no, like this is a goal. I can do it. I have these skills. I just need to keep pushing forward and essentially having a growth mindset.
Yeah, and a growth mindset, but like you said, also believing in yourself. And in the past, I have struggled with that, where it's like you're at a point where you feel like I can't do this, and it does take some sort of like it takes a lot of mental energy to get to a place where you almost psych yourself up to say, you know what, I actually got this.
Yep.
But can you speak to someone who's currently in that middle point right now between like I don't know if I got this and I got this.
Yeah, so I actually have a perfect example of this that I just went through recently. Because, like I said, we're in March and I started this job in December, and it's a senior project manager position. So I went from project manager to senior project manager. And of course, there was some imposter syndrome with that, right? Because I'm like, am I actually a senior project manager? I mean, I have the years of experience, but like I haven't been doing like formal, PM methodology and like, but I got hired as a senior PM, right? But I still had those doubts of like, oh my gosh, like, are they going to expect me to know everything because I'm supposed to be senior? Do I not ask questions? But again, I just like stopped myself and I'm like, no, this doesn't make sense. Like, why would they expect me to know everything? Like nobody knows everything. And so while I did at sometimes like, oh, I had that imposter syndrome of like, why the heck did I get hired as a senior? I just
Yeah.
had to have that reality check with myself. Like, no, you're still learning, right? You're still learning their systems, their processes, like, because I'm in a completely different world. I'm working on cloud projects, and it's like
Yeah.
starting from zero. Cloud, it's its own world. I was in network and email, which is like old school. Anyways, so of course there was that imposter syndrome. But again, going back to what we've talked about today, is
Yeah.
like you just no one's going to do it for you. You have to take control of your life, your thoughts, your mindset, and because nobody is going to come in your brain and do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. So, anyways, I think another thing that I want to share too is, as a woman, I've worked places and I've seen people of all ages and genders and whatever, and I'm like, if they can do it, if they can become a leader, and I know so much more than them, I actually know how to create a Word document into a PDF. Like, if I actually know how to email and talk to people, why couldn't I do it? And so maybe people will find that helpful too, is like, there are people that are dumber than you, do a worse job than you, and they get promoted. And if they can get promoted, there's no reason why you can't do it.
Hmm. Honestly, that's it reminds me of this thing I saw on, I think it was on LinkedIn, where it says there's someone out there dumber than you who's making 10 times as much as you are because they're like dumb enough. They're not smart
Yeah.
enough to believe in themselves, or they're not
Yes.
smart enough to doubt themselves. Something like
Yes,
that.
I've seen that too, and it's so true. Like, I don't know. I also don't want to come off as like this person, because I know a lot of people tell me, you seem so confident, and I wish you guys would have known me 5 years ago. Like when I said 5 years ago, because we're in 2025, 2020 was COVID, and I was on TikTok. I was severely overweight. I was severely depressed. I was just not the best version of myself, but I was delulu enough, to your point where you're talking about the LinkedIn post, to believe in myself. And I don't know, it's just so contradicting because I wasn't confident, but deep down inside me, I knew that I had the skills and potential to become something greater. And I don't know what that is. So again, I don't want to come off like I've always been this confident person and I've always had it figured out. No, like I literally in grad school had a stuttering problem because I would get so nervous presenting in front of people. And now that's part of my job. I have to present, I have to lead meetings. I'm a senior PM. Like,
Mhm.
so I just hope that I'm encouraging people, like, at the end of the day, you came into this world as yourself. You're going to leave this world as yourself. Like, you're the only person that can change your life, and so you have to believe in yourself. That's the only way.
There's something you just said that like just like set up a light bulb in my head, where it's like you're almost like having to be delusional enough to believe in yourself. If that's what you need to do, do it. Like if you have to like stand in front of a mirror and tell yourself I can do this, and you feel like you probably don't feel up to it, but you still go do it, like
Absolutely.
that pays dividends eventually.
Yeah, and I think maybe it was easier for me because, like I mentioned, I've invested in a lot of different coaching. And at one point in time, like I said, I was severely overweight. I had confidence issues. I invested in a confidence coach. She was like a fitness and a confidence coach. And so we did a lot of work on like self-love and self-body acceptance and
Yeah.
all this stuff. And part of that work was affirmations. And so I had a list of affirmations every morning. I would read them to myself. Every evening, I would read them to myself. She asked me to get sticky notes and write nice things about myself, put it on my bathroom mirror, put it on my door before I left for the day. Like, so while some people are like, oh, that's so woo woo, whatever, like, okay, but it works. If you are struggling with confidence, whatever, your love life, money, create a list of affirmations. And yes, at first it's going to feel very cringe reading those. And you're like, haha, yeah, right. You're not, whatever you have written. But that's the whole point. Over time, you keep saying them to yourself. Another trick too is actually, which I still do to this day, I listen to guided meditations when I sleep. And so there's a whole other world where you can listen to money affirmations, love affirmations, whatever, confidence affirmations. And as you're sleeping, that starts to like transform your subconscious. And so if you're serious about this work and you want to transform yourself, like look into guided meditations and do your affirmations. Again, goes back to the point, you're the only
Yeah.
person that can take control of your life and do something different. So,
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. There's because as you're talking, like ideas are just flooding my mind, right? Because for someone like me, like I'm a Christian, and it's very easy to uh, like the stories we kind of tell ourselves in our minds, and these kind of like movies we play in our minds of ourselves. We don't know how much of an impact that has on like how we end up seeing ourselves. And for someone like me who's like has a faith background, it sometimes is a little bit easier because I'm able to rely on that.
Yep.
But for someone else who maybe doesn't have a faith background, it might be kind of hard, especially if you don't come from an environment that is very like expressive in love and affirmation, which a lot of like
Yep.
I'm African, like we don't they don't do that stuff.
Okay.
Right? So
Yeah.
but it always helps, like you said, to understand that okay, there's this narrative that you set in your mind, and until you change that, nothing can change. Right.
It's
So
it's so reductionary and so simple, but it's just the truth. Like I again, at the beginning of the conversation, we were talking about, like, it would be amazing if you could just hand over someone $5,000 and the next day you have a six-figure job and you didn't have to do anything. But unfortunately, we don't live in that world. So it is going to take some effort on your part. But if you're serious about changing your life, I mean, literally, I went from making 40K to now I make over 135. I have more than tripled my salary. I'm able to pay off debt. I'm able to save for a house one day. I'm able to, travel versus, when I was making 40K, I barely was making it and surviving. And I put my mind to it. I executed on the things that I did. I was delusional enough to believe in myself and I made it happen. I tricked people and look, I'm here now. Like, it worked out. It's always working out.
yeah. And honestly, your story is so relatable because I think a lot of people look at people who have a following on the internet and think that, like, oh, they never had a time where they doubted themselves, or they never had a time where like they thought they couldn't do it. Like they've always been this way. So seeing someone like you who has like this massive following on LinkedIn and you're saying this, is reassuring for people in some sort of regard.
Yeah, that's such a good point too, because sometimes I get on calls with women and they're just like, oh, like starstruck. And I'm like, "Oh, no, don't, please stop. If you knew me like a few years ago, I was a hot ass mess." And so that's such a good point to bring up too, is like, especially if you're online and you start to grow following, people almost like idealize you and like think like you just have it so easy. And I've actually had people comment before and mention things like, oh, you only got that because of this. And I'm just like, you have no freaking idea how hard I worked and busted my ass to get to where I am today. Like, so when I was hired my two coaches that summer, I think that was summer of 2021, I literally did not go out. I didn't hang out with my friends. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm starting for the PMP. I'm committed 100 million% to this career pivot, and I'm not coming out and hanging out until I have my next job. And I did it. Like I said, that whole summer, in 3 months, I got my job, and then I came back out and I was like, hey guys, I have a new job. Like I was just so committed to it. And so yeah, I hope that we're encouraging people that, if you really want to make a change, it's possible, if you put in the work.
And honestly, Yonelly, as you're talking and as you've been talking this entire podcast, I can sort of see some recurring themes in your story. There's a lot of determination, a lot of
Yeah.
like perseverance. Like it sucks right now, but I'm gonna keep going. You know,
Yes.
and a lot of like I'm not gonna give up. Like this is the end goal, and I'm not gonna stop until I get there.
Yep.
Can you speak to like where that comes from?
I don't know. Again, maybe I'm just delusional. I don't know. But there's just because my career coach has even asked me that too. Because of course, I had to go and share my story and, encourage other people to join her program and because they would get results. And she asked me the same thing. She's like, what is it about you? I'm like, I honestly, I don't know. I didn't answer that I'm delusional enough, but maybe that's what it is. I don't know. It's just something in me that I think I just got to a point where I was like, and maybe some people can relate with maybe their like fitness and health journeys where you just get to such a low where you're like, I can either feel like shit about myself and not do anything, or I can feel like shit and actually be changing my situation. And so I just got to that point where I was like, you pick your shitty, it's going to be shitty either way, but one of them has a positive end at the end of it. So,
Yeah, no, that reminds me of a quote I saw somewhere. I think it said something along the lines of everything is hard. Just pick your hard.
Hmm.
Like, so the current situation that someone might be in might be difficult, but also like you can also be in a difficult situation where you're having to balance like a job that you actually like and like family and work and all that stuff, right?
Exactly. Nothing is ever easy. It's hard unless you're extremely privileged and come from wealth. But even then, I'm sure there's situations where they have to deal with hard stuff. And it's like, yeah, you pick your hard. Like, and I don't know. I just, again, I'm the only one that can do anything about my situation. I couldn't call my parents and be like, hey, get me a good job. Like, it
Mm.
just doesn't work that way. And so, yeah, be Delulu. I think that's going to be the theme of this podcast. Just be Delulu, and it will become Trululu.
I like that.
You haven't heard that before?
I've heard that before,
Oh, that's
honestly.
funny. Yeah, I
But
copied that from the internet, so it's not, it didn't originate by me. I wish,
yeah,
but no. Yeah.
but honestly, it like fits this entire conversation so well because almost having to trick yourself into like, yeah, we got this, and it's
Yeah,
like, but in your heart, you're like, I'm not sure if we got this, but we got this.
exactly. And one of my clients right now, they are so close. To, they have interview opportunities lined up. And even just like observing them, they're scared. They're nervous. They're like, oh my God, I have an interview. I haven't done this before in the traditional sense. They have the skills. They can do it, but they're still pushing forward. Again, they have that delusional factor to them, but I believe them, obviously.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I wouldn't have coached them. But yeah, they're nervous, they're scared, but they're like, I'm going to keep pushing forward, and I am very confident that they're going to get a job by the end of the year, just because the fact that they're scared, but they keep pushing forward. They're not giving up.
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
We're starting to round up here, but I just wanted to ask you because everyone knows Yonelly as career coach, project manager, all that stuff. Like, how do you balance okay, being a content creator, having a following, and the expectations in that realm of things. And then like I still have a job to do, and I
Yeah.
still and then like I still have like life, like friends, community, all that stuff.
I'm still figuring it out. Luckily, I've gotten to the point where my business has grown enough where I have hired a virtual assistant. So
Okay.
she's able to help me with a lot of the admin, the stuff, so I can focus on my work, but it's still a work in progress. And I think that's actually a really good point to bring up, because earlier I was encouraging people to build something outside of work. That also takes work. It is not easy. Okay, like to come up with content, unless you can pay somebody else to do it for you, but most of the time people can't afford to pay someone yet, right? And especially in the beginning stages. And so it's going to take time. Like there are many days, like literally right now, it's after I had a very busy work day and I still agreed to come do a podcast. And after this, I'm probably going to get ready for bed. So, you know, again, pick your heart. Like all of the stuff that I do outside of work and that I'm building, and even on the weekends, there are many weekends where I'm working on business stuff. I'm creating an online course, but to me, one, I'm passionate about it, but I'm also building a legacy for me, right? So like all this hard work, again, I just have this delulu about me that I think that eventually my business will blow up and will replace my full-time job. I mean, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, not right now. Just in case
Yeah.
anybody from my work is listening. I still want to be employed. Trust me. I still got financial goals to make, but I'm just delulu enough to think that it's gonna blow up one day. So yeah, it sucks. It's hard, and I'm doing stuff that I may not want to do all the time, like creating content and creating graphics on Canva, but I still think it's worth it to do. So
Yeah. Just doing the work that is required, whether or not you like see the immediate like returns, but still consistently doing it.
yeah. And again, if I didn't make the point clear enough, like if you can offload some of the tasks that you don't really care about or you find boring to somebody else, if you're in a position to do that, please do that. And I actually got that advice from my friend Temidayo. She's in the project management space, and we had a great conversation. And she was like, "Girl, what are you doing? Offload that stuff. Pay a contractor to do it for you." And I was like, "Okay, yes, but I'm not there yet." And like I mentioned, now I'm at a point where I can hire someone and pay them to do it. And so, I mean, there's ways around things, but in the beginning, it's probably going to be difficult, but it's still worth it in the end.
I want to ask a question around creator burnout, right? And
Yep.
this is something that has happened to me
Yep.
because I'm the way I'm wired. I'm wired to like just do stuff and just like yeah, like just get it out.
Yep.
And sometimes I can disregard like the signs of like you probably need to slow down. And typically, my wife is usually the one telling me you like take a chill pill, dude. Like you're doing
Yep.
the most. But in
Yep.
my head, I'm like, oh no, I've committed to this.
Yeah.
I gotta, you know,
I gotta
right?
keep going. Go. Go. Yeah. I know what you mean.
So like, could you speak to that? Because I'm sure there's someone watching this who's probably maybe they're about to give up on content because like they're burnt out and it's like I'm not seeing results, so I'm just gonna stop.
Yeah.
Can you speak to them? You know.
Yeah. Again, probably not the best person to ask because I have been burnt out so many times, but I keep pushing forward. And that's like the worst thing that you can do as someone with burnt out. You're supposed to take time off. But I will say, earlier this year, around January, I did get to a point where I didn't post. So I try to post 5 days a week. I got to a point where I was posting maybe at once or twice a week because I was so burnt out. So I guess my advice would be like, if you are feeling burnt out, like just consider, one, can I afford to offload some of these responsibilities? Okay, if I can't, can I reduce the amount of, content that I'm putting out, or can I create a system or something that's more sustainable? So there's just so many options and things that you can do. It may not feel that way. It may feel impossible. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the only advice that I have is there are options. And so you do what's best for you in that situation. But I will say create content creator burnout is a very real thing. And I'm probably not the healthiest person when it comes to burnout because I just push through it. So
Honestly, we're all still figuring it out, right?
yeah. Yeah. Like I
and,
said, now
yeah,
I hired someone to help. So, and it seriously helps so much, but I know not everybody's in the position to pay someone to help.
yeah. And honestly, I think like if I might add to that, in addition to like if someone's at a place where they can't afford to pay someone yet, I think just even creating systems that
Yep.
like help you keep you accountable, but also help you in terms of like maybe generating ideas or in terms of
Yep.
having a format like on Mondays I post this, on Tuesdays
Yep.
I post that. Just to take some of the thinking away, like some of that energy, you know.
Exactly. That's such a good point. So, with my content, Mondays I post about this topic, Tuesdays I post about this topic, et cetera, et cetera. And then I just switch up the format. So it does take away some of that thinking. There's a system in place. Of course, if I am very inspired one week and I want to talk about something else, of course, have that
Yeah,
flexibility. But to your point, like, try to reduce the amount of thinking that you have to do, especially if you're working a full-time job, right? Like that takes a lot of like brain power, and using tools like AI, like literally ChatGPT is my best friend. I have a custom GPT. It does all my content
yeah.
writing, my brainstorming, everything. It's even my therapist too. And so like, again, not the best for the environment, but that's kind of out of my control. Those are the powers that be. The karma
Yeah.
will go onto them. But in the meantime, I'm going to take advantage of the tools that are at my fingertips.
Yeah, and I think that's an amazing way to put it. It's like being resourceful enough to use what you have available at the level where this is what you have available. You use that, and then when you get to the point where you can hire somebody, you do that too. You know,
Yep.
but like at every level, you're taking advantage of what you have available.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and again, I really thank Timoteo for giving me the idea. There's some book out there, I forget the book name, but basically it talks about like as a business owner, and I, I don't want to generalize like this advice is only to business owners because I think just generally people without a business, this is good advice. But like again, for the task in your life, like let's say you hate cleaning or cooking, if you can get to a point where you can pay someone to do it, like do it, right? Like life, you're supposed to enjoy life. You're supposed to enjoy it with your family and your friends and out relaxing and in nature. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in like all the BS that it is today and everything. It's overwhelming. And it's like, wait, hold on. We're humans. We're here to enjoy life. And yes, it's important to create job security and take care of yourself for retirement one day and family and friends. But again, we're humans, use AI, use the
Yeah,
non-humans to do the tedious task, and then you get to enjoy life because that's the whole point. We're not here forever.
yeah. Ah, that's solid. That's solid, Yonelly. I wanted to ask because every time you talk about women, you light up. I wanted to ask about um the decision to coach like primarily women? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because I was just having a conversation with my mom about this last night. So, the reason why I'm so passionate about helping women specifically, because trust me, I have men in my DMs asking me to help them. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, because I know you're a man, but I'm just like, there's so many other career coaches out there that are like willing to help you and like I don't know. I'm just very passionate. I guess as a Latina and working in tech, right? A lot of times I'm the only woman, the only Latina on a meeting. And I'm like, why? Why is it like this? It shouldn't be like this. Like, I don't know. I'm just of the belief that like diversity of people and thought like just makes places so much better. And so I don't want to bring more of the same to tech. And unfortunately, right now it's like 80, 90% male. And so I think that again, there's just so many resources for men and women, but not necessarily women only. And so I don't know, that's kind of why I decided to hone in on women and helping women. But there's also challenges with that, right? Because men are they want to get into project management and they're more willing to like pay, and there's a lot of like unfortunately a lot of women really struggle with confidence issues, and so they say they want to get into project management, but when it comes time to actually like forking over the money and investing in, I don't know why. Someone needs to do a study on that, and maybe there's like a gender thing behind it, but I don't know. To me, it's still really important to focus on women as a woman myself and, provide that perspective of here's the BS you're going to deal with the job. Like sometimes you're going to experience sexism and racism and all these things, but you can still keep pushing forward. You can create the life that you want. And so, yeah, that's why I decided to hone in on women, even though I have men asking me, hey, can you coach me? And I'm like, go away. There's so many other people out there. Go away.
It's funny
Yeah.
because that was gonna be my next question. Like, have you had a lot of men like be like, "Hey, why don't you open up your program to us too?" You know?
Yes, I've literally had someone say like, "Well, we need help too," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm not the only career coach out there. There's so many other people that you could talk to. Like, especially as a smaller creator, I'm just like, okay, whatever. Okay, I appreciate it,
Yeah.
but yeah."
I mean, it's a compliment, but at the same time, it's like, hey, but I'm not the one for you. You know, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And but again, trust me, I've thought many times I'm like maybe I should expand to both men and women, but it just doesn't feel right to me. I want to again recruit other people like me to into a space that is not designed for people like that, and because again, my life has completely transformed because of all the hard work that I've done and investing and blah 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 to get where I am today. And I am a living embodiment of what that could be for so many women if they were to invest in themselves. And so, yeah, that's what drives me.
I think you're doing phenomenal work.
Thank
Like,
you.
because this is something that actually hits home for me. And a lot of times you have conversations with women in the workplace, and you get to see things from their perspective, and it really like it's a different challenge entirely. Like it's a
Hmm.
different challenge entirely. So like
Yeah.
you're doing amazing work. You know.
Thank you. I really
Uh,
appreciate that. Yeah. And I want, to be transparent that it's not all sunshine and rainbows now that I am
mm,
where I am. I mean, even to this day I still deal with some BS, but again, I'm delulu enough to just be like, okay, yeah, that sucked, but let's forget about it. You're getting paid well, you're paying off your student debt, you're reaching your financial goals. This isn't forever. And yeah. I mean, you pick your heart. You want to
that's it.
get paid 40K or you want to get paid six plus figures. So, and I'm very money driven, as you can tell. And so I'm like, I'm going to get my bag and
Hey,
peace out.
that's it. Get the bag and peace out.
Yeah.
Amazing. The last question here because I don't want to keep you for too long. I want you to imagine that you had the opportunity. This is how I typically end off the episodes. I ask a question that is like just made up in my head, but it's very like descriptive. So I want you to imagine you have an opportunity to address a stadium full of people,
Oh,
right?
wow. Okay.
Right? No
Okay.
pressure,
Yeah. No
right?
pressure. Shit. Okay.
And you have this opportunity, and you can only say like you can only communicate one thought or one opinion over to them. And for you, I'll make it about career. you could only say one thing to them about their careers. And keep in mind that this is going to be a stadium full of people who are just starting out, people who are like midway through their careers, people who are trying to figure out the next move, people who are well established in their careers. What is the one thing that you would say to them in terms of their career? Like, just Yonelly's message to everyone, you know.
Yeah, I think I would say something like love yourself enough to invest in yourself, period. Yeah, because I feel like that's very encompassing of everything that we talked about today, the confidence piece, you know, yeah, just loving on yourself. And, we give love to other people, right? But so few of us give love in return to ourselves. And as we've talked throughout this whole episode, like it all comes back down to you. Like, and so the same energy that you put out to other people, your family, your friends, your children, your animals, your pets, why not do that for yourself and watch your world completely transform by loving yourself enough to invest in yourself and whatever that looks like? It doesn't even necessarily need to be career coaching, whatever. If you're passionate about sewing, crocheting, horseback riding, learning how to play golf, do the things that you enjoy, invest in yourself with those related activities and transform your life.
That's amazing. Love yourself enough to invest in yourself. Like
Oh,
mic drop at that
yeah,
point.
mic drop. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, no, that this is. I think that's a phenomenal way to end the pod. This has been a wonderful conversation, and Yonli, thank you once again for
Yeah,
your time. Can you
absolutely.
tell people where to find you on LinkedIn, how to find you?
Yeah, so I'm Yonelly Gutierrez on LinkedIn. It's spelled Yonelly. I'm sure you'll include it in the podcast episode. I am thinking about expanding to TikTok and Instagram, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, for now, I'm on LinkedIn, and I really appreciate the time today. It was really great getting to know you and, getting to
Likewise,
share my truth, and I really appreciate it.
likewise. Thanks for coming on the pod, Yonli. And well, thanks everyone. I guess we'll see you on the next one then.